Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is so I'm Emma Honeyford for the recording, and this is the OTHM Level 7 Diploma in Environmental and Sustainability Management. Today we're going to cover environmental management in organisations, which is Unit 7. So the unit aim, Dahlia, is so we're going to look at how companies are increasingly required to manage and report their impact on the natural environment. We'll look into the drivers of that. So the aim of the unit is for students to understand what is meant by environmental aspects, how relevant aspects and issues are selected, measured and then reported. So hopefully the students will all gain an understanding of existing environmental management standards, and we'll be able to discuss the pros and cons of implementing an environmental management system. And it will look differently for each organisation, and we'll discuss that further shortly. So I'm just going to go over the different learning outcomes. So obviously, when you do your assignment, it's just obviously to make sure that you do cover all of these different areas. So this first session, we're going to kind of talk over and understand the topics that are relevant for environmental management and the reasons why organisations should choose to manage them. So obviously, an increasingly kind of uncertain world, there are definitely now, we know from the previous modules that we have covered, that there are ambitious targets. So it is really important, the net zero targets, that organisations understand how that impacts them. So the first, the assessment criteria, the 1.1, we need to you need to show how you understand how to define the context in which environmental management is undertaken. So what does the local context look like for a particular organisation? And it will look differently for each and every different organisation. The impacts will be different. So I think it's really important to understand that it is unique for each and every organisation. So 1.2, so you need to be able to describe the most used environmental management standards. So what are the most common different standards that are in place at the moment in different organisations? So 1.3, and Dahlia, if you have any questions, please just interject. That's absolutely fine. So 1.3, you have to be able to explain the scientific principles and processes to environmental management problems. So we know that from the previous modules, the science does have implications for how we develop these environmental management systems and problems. So having an understanding of the science is important. And then 1.4, we've got analyse. You need to be able to analyse why some areas of environmental impact are more concerning than others for an organisation. So it depends on the geography of an organisation, where are they based in the world, and what their operations look like. So different organisations will have different operating models, and they may impact with the environment in completely different ways. So it's just to be aware of that as well. And then the indicative content, so the areas of environmental impact and management and why these should be a concern for organisation. So obviously climate change is a massive impact area, and this obviously has other impacts such as impacts on sea levels. We've got then a risk of flooding risk coastal hazards. And then we've got risk of droughts and water shortage, air pollution, solid waste, relandfilling and deforestation and biodiversity loss. So these are all different types of impacts that an organisation can have on the environment, but they may look different for each organisation, depends obviously where the organisation is based. So yeah, it's just to be aware that, it may be that particular organisation, their operations impacts all of these different areas, and sometimes it can be difficult to track and trace how an organisation is impacting all of these, and that is the purpose of environmental management systems, to be able to track those, to be able to mitigate. And then obviously we have water pollution. Um, and obviously, again, so this can be made specific to the region where the module is available. So flooding, we know in the UK, obviously, how long have you been in the UK for now, Dahlia?
Yes, about 3 years and a half, I think.
Okay, so obviously we have a lot of rain over here.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
I didn't see any flood.
you've not seen any floods, right? Okay. Are
Yes.
you in Birmingham? Did I?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
Birmingham.
So yeah, there's a lot of flooding around Manchester in
Mm.
particular.
Oh.
Um,
Mm.
and I think it's just obviously how we manage that, and how we manage these systems, to mitigate
Mm.
these impacts. So
Yeah, to be honest, I need to study flooding because I had made like a few interviews about flood risk assessment and how to manage floods in UK.
yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't have enough information because I used to work with highways and urban roads.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
for this reason, I just need to know more about water and more about surface drainage, more about flooding. And I think the environmental concept it conclude make like a summary for all of these issues, and it covers all the issues comes to water in UK. So I
That's good for me to know
yes,
then.
so I would be happy to study anything goes with
Okay.
flooding or water.
We can focus more on that today then, if
Oh,
you'd
thank you.
like.
And if you have any time, I just want to ask about something refers to the assignment that I have some points. I received some points that I can't manage, the assignment need to be more writing with a good content with paragraphs, and it may it must I have notes I instead I have to concentrate on paragraphs more than bullet points, and
Okay.
I have to yes, and I have to manage critical thinking and the critical analysis, and get
Okay.
like the Harvard referencing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the academic writing skills that you probably
Yeah,
need
so to
for
be
it.
honest, I'm not so good at the academic skills in my assignment. So this is the point. I'm confused a little bit about how to manage
Okay.
my assignment to cover all of these points, to not to be bullet points instead of academic paragraphs. I just want to make it more paragraphs instead of bullet
Yeah.
points, and to cover the critical thinking and make critical analysis, and also to cover like the Harvard referencing.
Yeah, yeah, and it is
Yes.
quite difficult to get your head around. But what I will do is, because that will have to be a different session from today, because today we have to go over this module.
Yes, sure, sure,
So
yeah.
I think what I will go back, or if you want to go back to Sucknor, and I can as well, and maybe you need to ask for an academic skills session, because we do that as well. But I
Okay,
think having a whole session dedicated to that would be really helpful for you.
okay.
Um, yeah, because yeah,
So,
okay, I can sort that out.
okay, so I will ask him, and after that I will see what I can do about this, and I will tell you, of course,
Yeah,
after.
of course. We'll go over this specific module today, and then we can arrange a different session for anything in particular that you want to really go into detail with. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, sure, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
So,
okay.
sorry, excuse me. What's it called? It's called academic what?
So it's academic writing skills.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's the Harvard referencing system. And once you understand what's needed, it's absolutely fine.
Okay.
But I guess yeah, so the critical thinking, I think that is covered within the academic skills session. But I'm not 100% sure. But if I can speak to Sucknor, if you when you can as well, if that's okay, and we can get
It's
that.
okay. I will speak to him, and if it's not covered in my diploma, I think I will cover it about searching how to be academic writer more than to be I think I have to learn about Harvard referencing and how to write
Yeah.
the reference and how to talk about like paragraphs more than bullet points.
Yeah. And
So
we can
sorry for this long speech.
Oh, no, no, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Obviously, we want to support you, so we can definitely arrange a session dedicated to academic skills, critical thinking, and the Harvard referencing system. I'm happy to deliver that for you, but obviously, it just needs to be focused on that. We can do that. We can do that anytime this week, when it's convenient for you. But that's absolutely fine, Dahlia. And it's really helpful when you do assignments to have that session. It does help students to have that session. Um, okay, so yeah, well, I'll sort that. I'll
Mhm.
speak to Suknor anyway, and you can as well. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay, so just before we go on to the actual module, I'll just go over these different different areas. So, just a brief introduction to the different environmental management systems. So, in terms of why organisations do act, in terms of how they interact with the environment, there are different environmental drivers, like in terms of risk. It may be that it's policy that is driving organisations to care about the environment, or it may be customers, or it may be in terms of compliance or risk. So there are different reasons why organisations do take action, and we will discuss that. So why should organisations care about the environment? It makes sense. We need to look after our natural systems. They give us resources, so it makes sense that organisations want to look after those systems that bring them profit essentially. And then policymakers' views, we'll discuss them and how they may be different from the stakeholders' views. So obviously, another driver is kind of investors will want to see that organisations have plans in place to reach net zero. So there's a lot of different drivers as to why environmental management systems are put in place in different organisations. So there are different standards as well. So I guess I'm not specifically sure which standard may be most applicable for flooding risk, but I can look
Mhm.
into that. But these are the different standards that exist at the moment and most common. So you've got Green Dragon ISOs, the British standard 8555, and then you've got the EMAS Global, which is a global popular standard. So I think it's just being, I guess, when in the context of when you look for jobs and looking at interviews, maybe
Mhm.
do a bit of research about which system the organisation is using.
Yes.
That might be quite helpful. But I can talk to you about that after here. We'll go through all of this first, and I can send you some information on the WhatsApp group.
Thank you.
Um, okay, so if we get started. So environmental management in organisations. So this is learning outcome one. So we're going to understand the topics relevant for environmental management and the reasons why organisations should choose to manage them. We know it makes sense, but some organisations may have different intentions. And organisations that I have worked for, some care more than others about the environment. And it's very complex, and there's different factors as to why different organisations do more than others. But we'll go
Mhm.
into this now. Okay, so the indicated content, so we've already kind of gone over that. So I won't go over that again, but we just spoke briefly around the different environmental impact areas, and the different systems that different organisations may use depending on what their operations look like. So I won't go over that again. So the key topics in environmental management. So environmental management does cover areas an organisation must understand and control if it does want to reduce its environmental impact and operate responsibly. The main topics that we need to think about within organisations. So when we're kind of thinking about taking action to deal with our environmental footprint, the main kind of areas an organisation will look at will be like resource use. So this could include energy usage, water, raw materials, and other inputs. Obviously, there's any kind of natural resource any kind of materials that an organisation is using on a daily basis. Organisations should really understand how much materials they're using. And it makes sense not just for the environment, but in terms of cost as well. It's not sustainable to see the world as a never-ending supply of stuff. And I don't know if you know, but the figures show that we currently operate as though we have 1.75 planet Earths, and we
Mhm.
only have one. So it isn't sustainable the way we do operate at the moment, and we know that we need to get better at managing resources. High consumerism isn't good for the planet. Um, so being more efficient, is best for the planet, and it's also good for cost for an organisation. So it makes sense to be more efficient with what we use. So waste management is an area that a lot of every organisation will have to deal with, and I think more and more there's more kind of policies, external policies that are in place that have driven organisations to take action on this. Um, so it is good for organisations to start to quantify how much waste they are generating, where it actually goes, and how we can reduce it. And I think we did cover the waste hierarchy in the previous session, but it is good for organisations to understand the different methods for waste management, as it does reduce cost, lowers pollution, and keeps the company compliant with legislation. So it's better that we have an awareness of waste management, not just for reputation, but in terms of the legal cost and side of it as well. And then we have pollution prevention. So this includes air emissions, water contamination, noise, land pollution, and hazardous substances. And obviously that can look different depending on what the operations look like for an organisation. Um, so preventing pollution protects local ecosystems and biodiversity as well. It reduces cleanup liabilities and improves community relations. So obviously, it isn't just about the environmental impacts; it's the community impact also. Um, and if you have an organisation that is operating in a local community and is having a negative impact, that isn't good for reputation or community relationships. So that's why it is important as well. And then we have another key area is climate change and carbon management. So businesses are increasingly focusing on carbon emissions. Um, so I don't know, Dahlia, if you have experienced any organisation talk about carbon emissions. Have you come across that a lot, like recently, that a company talks a lot about the carbon emissions and carbon reporting?
Yes, I think as my last company, we have a quick call, like a quick call about carbon emissions, but not. I didn't go into details.
In too much detail, yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, it is with because of the amount of policy and global policy around carbon emissions and the different, the Paris Agreement, and then you've got the UK net zero targets for 2050 to be net zero. A lot of businesses are aligning their policies to this. So
But
um,
I don't know why we are receiving like letters here in house that the net zero is not so good for industry. So I don't know why. I think it's impossible to be on land to be net zero carbon.
mhm, yeah.
Yes, so I think the perspective of companies, it's too hard for them to net zero carbon emission.
Yeah, I think this is like a bit of it's an ongoing debate around how much agency and how possible is it to ever be net zero?
Mhm. Okay.
um, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge, and I think we have to have. It's about the systems in place as well, the infrastructure. I don't think it's quite there. So I think it's about organisations obviously
Yeah.
doing what they can do, but also the systems and the infrastructure needs to be there and put in place by governments to be able to support organisations as well.
Mm.
And the role of technology, I think, is going to be a massive factor as well. But it does seem like a really difficult prospect. um,
Yes.
it does, and I think it's a challenge for a lot of organisations at the moment.
Mm.
And then another key area is biodiversity and land use. So obviously, when you, as an organisation, you'll have different supply chains, different providers kind of supplying the organisation with different. It may be a service or it may be a product. And them supply chains have impacts on natural habitats. So organisations do want to understand and work with supply chains that have kind of can demonstrate what their impacts are in terms of the natural environment. So that's another important thing to think about if you're doing any sustainability work for an organisation. What do their supply chains look like? Because a lot of organisations now see that it doesn't just stop within an organisation. If you have a product that comes from outside, but you're going to use that product, then the organisation has a responsibility to understand where that comes from. So this includes responsible sourcing, habitat conservation, and sustainable operations. And then another key area is legal and regulatory compliance. So I think it is important for organisations to understand what kind of laws maybe impact them. And the companies need systems to monitor these legal requirements to avoid fines, penalties, or legal action. So that is another key driver. Compliance and legal action is a major factor for organisations to take action on this. And then we have environmental risk assessment. So this looks at identifying, evaluating, and controlling environmental risks. So this would probably be something that you would deal with if you were to get into kind of flood management, I guess, in any kind of role. You'd
Yes.
need to understand kind of
Risk assessment.
what the risks are if a river floods, which is constantly the case in this country at the moment. We know that our coastal areas are at risk increasingly, and a lot of communities have been affected. People have lost houses. So yeah, there is a lot of work being done in that area, but I can go into that further. I'll send you some information specific to that. So environmental management systems, so EMS, so different frameworks. The ISO standards help organisations set policies, manage impact, track performance, and improve continuous improvement. So these are different systems that organisations can put into place to really get to grips with how sustainability impacts them and is an opportunity to get better. So this is kind of essentially a way of risk management, really, to use these systems. So obviously we have spoken a little bit about why it's important for organisations to manage environmental impact. So this bit will kind of cover in more specific detail why it's important. So obviously we spoke about this already, but the legal requirements, so environmental regulations are in place, and organisations need to comply with these. Otherwise, there's financial implications which could really impact whether a business continues. So that's one key driver, and probably one of the biggest drivers, I think. I think unless there's strict kind of regulation in place, organisations would maybe not do as much in the past. They put profit above kind of ethics. I think that was a typical kind of approach before. So having legal requirements is good for the planet, I think. And then the financial benefits. So we know that, and I know myself, that environmental management systems, having them in place is good for business too. It reduces, the cost of resources, reduces waste, and being more efficient as well with resources can create savings. So I feel like any organisation that I have worked for, the way to kind of approach it when you're working with colleagues or stakeholders is to kind of drive the cost, the cost approach helps people engage better sometimes. So we know that better risk management does prevent expensive incidents or legal claims. So reputation and competitive advantage. So I think more and more consumers and customers expect better from organisations. And obviously, we've had a lot of there's been a lot of disasters in the past in which organisations have faced, fines. So there is increasing pressure for companies to do the right thing, and I think that is really important that they do. And also because of the changing nature of the political global landscape, it's meant that organisations, they want to attract investors and need to be seen to do the right thing, and it does help stand out from other competitors. And then again, stakeholder expectations. So if any kind of stakeholder within an organisation, it doesn't have to be it could be a number of different people. It could be staff, customers, local communities. So as a whole, people do expect organisations to do better. And I found that most often it's usually the staff that drive leadership to want them to do better for the environment. Um, so it makes better financial sense, better business sense for organisations to be more sustainable. Did you experience that, Dahlia, within your recent role? Did you find that the organisation wanted to do better?
My recent role, I think the perspective of environmental management wasn't too close. And instead, in the field of surface drainage for water surface drainage,
Oh,
I
okay.
think how to handle flooding inside the drainage design, like how, designing pipes and prevent the flooding by studying flood risk assessment. But I didn't go to details in this field because I just want to study it first in details to be sure that
Okay.
I, I can be reliable on to deal with this field. So I have to study first.
So you want a kind of overall high level cross sector understanding.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
I understand.
and I think there is a standard called the DMRP, the code for highways, and
Oh, okay.
it's a design manual for roads and bridges. I think there is chapters for floods and surface drainage, but I didn't go to details in this sector.
Okay.
I just want to take the trip from the beginning to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm understanding well everything about the environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, before I go to details, because I think I tried to do this and I didn't go well because I wasn't sure that I realized everything and
Mhm.
I understand everything. So I think it's a good step to start with. Yes,
And you probably have experienced all of this in your and at some varying level, but it's good to have that overall kind of understanding, isn't it?
yeah, I think I can't I can't express it in tools or in vocab, but I think I have I dealt with environmental issues. Uh,
Absolutely, you would
yes,
have.
in my journey for working and learning, but in my study for the university, we studied environment and how we we studied how to deal with like how to sparkle water and how to deal with it with irrigation. We took like
Okay,
chapters for,
yeah.
yes, for irrigations and what's the problems around them, how to deal with all
Okay.
of this stuff. Yes, and I think I was took close more to infrastructure design for like roads,
Mhm.
calculate cut and fill for computing earthworks, this stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I was in this area more than water. But when I come to UK, I found that the infrastructure engineer is must be aware of all of this area,
Yeah,
including
yeah,
water and designing for surface drainage and wastewater drainage, and also to be aware of highway design and road design. All of this, including in the
yeah.
same role. So it wasn't in my country. We have things like
Right.
specified, like a civil engineer specified in designing of roads, civil engineer, infrastructure engineer specified in designing for drainage water.
Okay.
But here civil engineer must be aware of all of this stuff in the same time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Then it just shows that obviously the location, it has a massive impact on
Yes.
the kind of things that an organisation and the infrastructure as well must be. The the geography is important, and I guess so. You want to
Mm.
kind of understand the UK context, I guess, don't you?
Yes, yes, but I think I can't manage until now to manage my assignment. Because of the word count. I think when I write with academic writing skills, I go more further for the word count. So I have to summarize all of these points. So when I summarize them, the point is that I make word count more than is in the assignment. So I think I'm a little confused in this area, but I think I will go through it. Um, I think in the few days.
Yeah, and if you do speak to Sukno, and I can speak to her as well, just obviously just say that you would like a bit more support around that because it is hard to get your head. I found it hard, and you're doing it obviously, and you do amazing. I didn't do it in another language, and I found it difficult to get used to the style. It is a certain style,
Yes.
and once you get it, you get it. It just takes a bit of time. So
Thank you.
I'll speak to Suknor, but absolutely UK Versity will do everything they can to support you with that. So just reach out to Suknor, and we can arrange some additional classes for you. I'm happy to
Yeah.
help.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so the next area is around, and I have spoken about this a little bit already, is around market and supply chain pressures. So um, when we talk about kind of the supply chains, it might not just be pressure from an organisation to a supply chain. It could be from a supply chain to the organisation. It can go both ways. So there is more pressure I have experienced for supply chains to be more responsible, and organisations will um, often, do contracts with suppliers to make sure that they are being ethical and transparent about their environmental impact. So it's really important that organisations do adopt good practices to stay compliant with supply chain standards and to keep the contracts. So yeah, the supply chain, I've in my experience of working within organisations, it's really important. It's quite high up there in terms of priorities, and each supply chain may be different. Some organisations may have a little supply chain, others may have a big complex supply chain, and that's when it can get really complicated to track all of those different impacts. So the next section is around risk reduction. So um, you can obviously different organisations. Some may have to deal with environmental incidents, and that can cause operational downtime. So it makes sense to apply a risk reduction approach to all organisations, because the cost of any kind of environmental accidents can really impact organisations operationally for a long time. So it is better for the environment and for a business to have a risk reduction approach, and to look after the local environment as well. Um, so sustainability goals. So obviously you've probably seen a lot of organisations are now setting sustainability targets. So a lot of organisations will have internal sustainability action plans. And these action plans will mostly look to align their operations to local policies, and local and national policies. And within those action plans, it may look at how the organisation can reduce their emissions across the three different scope areas, um, or cut waste and look at energy efficiency. So, and then separate to sustainable development plans, an environmental management system may be put in place as well. But the environmental management system will look differently dependent on what the organisation does on a day-to-day basis. So, and then another area to consider is social responsibility. So, and also just to make you aware, Dahlia, some organisations will use different language to communicate all of this. Some may focus more on sustainability language, whereas others may use the term kind of environmental management. So it has a lot of crossovers, but the language is quite different across different organisations. So social responsibility. So companies recognise their role to protect their environment. So doing the right thing supports communities, improves employee pride, and strengthens the organisation's social licence to operate. So a lot of organisations will understand that having a bad impact on the environment can negatively impact communities. And the way that they will communicate these concerns is maybe through social responsibility language or a policy. So it's just to be aware that it looks differently in different organisations. So just to summarise, so organisations manage environmental topics because they want to, first of all, comply with the law, reduce costs, minimise risks. So risks in terms of maybe cost or risks to the local environment, which could then impact the organisation and the kind of capacity to operate after any potential incident. Protect the environment and to meet stakeholder expectations. So I think it's just going back to the learning outcomes, just to remember the different factors as to why organisations want to understand and mitigate their environmental impacts. And then we've got effective environmental management supports long-term sustainability and improves the organisation's performance and reputation. So I don't think it's enough anymore for organisations to say that they care about their environment. It makes more sense to have a dedicated environmental management system in place. So just to be aware of that. And then the next section is around how we define the context of environmental management. So environmental management does sit in the wider context shaped by legislation, social expectations and economic pressures, and the physical environment itself. So organisations don't operate in isolation. So the way they manage their environmental responsibilities is influenced by several external and internal factors. So I won't go over all of these there's a lot of detail in here. So it may be that, can you get a copy of these, Dahlia? Can you get a copy of these slides?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have access to the site and I download all of these PDFs.
Oh, great. Okay.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it's just, obviously we've discussed before, there's different kind of contexts that organisations operate within. So I think it's just important to understand the importance of understanding what the local kind of legislation looks like, what laws are in place. And obviously every organisation does have to comply with the national and local rules of issues. So we've got their waste disposal, emissions, pollution control and resource use. On top of this, governments are increasingly introducing climate-related targets. Um, and then obviously carbon reporting requirements and sustainability policies. So you've got the government's kind of the targets and policies, and then you've got the, as an organisation, how they get there, and that's why they'll have sustainability policies, and they will have their own carbon reporting requirements to help them manage their operations to get to those specific targets. So these are the minimum standards organisations do have to meet. There is a strong public expectation that businesses will act responsibly. Um, Customers, local communities, investors, and pressure groups all push for transparency and higher environmental standards. And in the past, there has been a tendency for like organisations to greenwash. So I think it is so important that organisations are really transparent about where they are at in terms of their environmental impacts. Um, so many industries face market pressure as well because large companies demand that their suppliers demonstrate strong environmental performance. So it is really positive. We do see, there's the will and there's the want now for suppliers to be performing better and protecting the environment. And I think that's really positive. And then you've got the economic context as well. So the energy prices, raw material costs, and waste management fees affect businesses. So it makes better sense for organisations to really protect their local environment. If we don't look after our environment, then how are they going to operate efficiently? So it is really important to understand the connection between kind of environmental protection and economic impacts as well. So obviously, if you don't have enough resources, the cost rises as well. And then obviously it can put organisations at more risk for economic uncertainty. So organisations do have an incentive to adopt more efficient practices and reduce their environmental impact. Insurance companies also and financial institutions now assess environmental risk when deciding how to price policies or whether to invest, which adds another layer of pressure. The environmental and scientific context shapes management too. So issues like climate change, resource scarcity, water stress, and biodiversity loss influence how organisations plan and operate. So I guess it's about an organisation really scoping out and understanding what are the key environmental impacts for them, and then to understand what the science behind that is as well. So many businesses face real physical risks now, such as flooding, which you've spoken about, extreme weather, supply chain disruption, and land use restrictions. So the science is important, especially so we can develop particular standards for organisations as well. And then we have finally the internal context. So this is the internal context within an organisation. So this may be its own policies, culture, strategy, and operational activities. So environmental management is a way in which organisations will kind of deal with all of this. And some organisations will adopt formal frameworks such as the ISO standards. But yeah, in my experience working for organisations, there has to be clear leadership, and the culture and the values as well have to really mirror their kind of policies around sustainability and climate impacts. And also in terms of governance as well, there needs to be kind of processes in place to govern these behaviours that we need staff to have the right behaviours to drive all of this internal kind of internal goals for sustainability. And I think that's where a lot of organisations can fall down because they'll have sustainability goals, sustainability policies, but they won't have those key behaviours and kind of processes in place to manage all of that, and that's where it can fall down. So it is, and the frameworks like ISO will have ways to manage all of these different kind of areas. Does that make sense, Dahlia?
Yes, sorry,
Sorry.
too quiet because it's too academic for me.
Oh no, I think it's. I think just like really trying to kind of break it down. So
Yes, yes, I know. Yeah.
yeah.
To be honest, I told them that I want to all my sessions to be with you because I previously I didn't understand anything.
Oh, okay, okay. Well,
But
yeah,
I am now. It's okay. It's
yeah.
too good for me that I understand that like more than 50%. But I think the issue is because it's too academic. It's much more words that more than pictures and more than videos.
You
So
do
I
like
think
the videos, don't you? I wasn't able to find. I did have a look for some particular videos, but what I will do after today, after here, I will have a good look because I did have a look for some videos, but they were all very long, 10 minutes long, which is a bit too much for within this session. And I think because it is so complex, that's
I
probably
think
why.
yes, I think they already put like video each topic in the site.
Mhm.
Um, yes, there is videos for each topic, but I think who- I think much more words for me
Yeah,
to because I think it's more academic. The context of the yes of the course, it's more academic than I expected. So because
yeah.
of this, yeah, I maybe.
It is hard. It is hard, but it takes time. Like I learn new stuff all the time, and you know,
I just wonder how to study. This was my question. I just wonder how to study. Yeah,
yeah.
it's okay for me to just understand the topic.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or or I have to make my research to get most use of the
Mhm.
of the diploma, or what is the what is the most useful things that I must do to make the best benefit of this diploma. I'm confused whether I have to just understand and read the context, or I have to make my own study, or I have to bring much more references. And when I do my assignment, should I get extra references, or just refer to the context of this
I think
diploma?
obviously whatever helps your learning, how obviously lived experience has a massive role to play. So if you come across some particular a reference that helps you make sense of all of this, that is specific to your area, then I would absolutely use that.
Yeah, but the problem is the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
no time.
You're a
Yes.
mum, you've got a daughter. I know it's
Yes.
very hard.
And I have freelancing work, so I can't find time to make my own research, to be honest.
No, it's really difficult. But if
Yeah.
you want me to go and have a look after here at specific examples of environmental management systems in the context of what you do, I can go and have a look if you'd like me to do that. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. It will be much more nice from you, and feel free to send it anytime. I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Overall,
Yeah.
your teaching is so good for me, so it's okay for
Oh,
me for all the yes. I
well,
can understand from you well. It's
yeah.
so good for me. Thank you.
Oh, great. And we want you to succeed, and you will, Dali. You will. You absolutely will. It does take time, and it's hard when you're managing so many different things. So, you will get there. I have faith in you. Um,
Thank you. That's the point.
you know, it's not easy. It takes me time. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm still learning all the time.
Perfect.
Um,
Yes, yes. I know that how it goes, but really um when I started the diploma, I couldn't understand much better. Since you started to teach me, and I told them that if it would be good, it would be good if you uh, complete with me all the rest of the diploma. It
oh,
will.
okay. Oh, great. That's thank you for Dahlia. I just want you to, that if it hopefully I can help you. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just conscious of the time because it's the time flies, doesn't it? It's 11 o'clock already. So I'll go through the next few slides, and then what I'll do is I'm going to go away and find specific examples of this within your sector.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
and I have got the message of that you sent me on WhatsApp around what you specifically do. So I will go away and do some research on that for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
So I'll go through these. So yes, we've gone over that. So So, in simple terms, environmental management is undertaken within a context shaped by legal obligations, market and social expectations, economic pressures, environmental risks, and an organisation's own strategy and culture. So, those are the main kind of areas that you need to be aware of going forward. So, organisations respond to these forces to stay compliant, remain competitive, and reduce their environmental impact. So I think it's just to have those kind of key areas in your head. So why does an organisation take action for the environment? So you've got your
Mm.
legal obligations, market and social expectations, economic pressures, and environmental risks. And then the different standards. So these are the most common standards that are being used at the moment. And these different standards give organisations a very structured way to control their environmental impact. So it's a bit of a kind of structure for organisations to understand which areas they really need to consider. And that's driven by the science as well. So you've got the ISO 14001. So this is one of the most recognised environmental management standards around the world. So this sets out a framework that helps organisations identify their environmental impacts, sets objectives, reduce risks, and complies with legislation. So it doesn't dictate a specific environmental targets. Instead, it just helps organisations to have a clear part to develop policy, define responsibilities and processes, and ongoing monitoring and continual improvement. So yeah, so really, it's really kind of complicated, but it does this kind of systematic approach helps that everything is kind of there's controlled measures put in place, so organisations know what they're working towards. And then I'm not going to go through all of these different ones because we probably haven't got time now. I think the most useful thing for me to do is to go away and look
Yes.
to see which standards your industry uses, and then maybe
To be honest, yes, I will forget all of this.
yeah, no, of course,
Really, yeah.
yeah, I understand that. So I'm going to go away. We'll go past that bit. I'm going to go away and have a look at the specific system, the EMS systems that your sector will use. Um, so environmental management relies, so this is around the scientific principles and processes in environmental management problems. So environmental management relies heavily on scientific principles because most environmental problems only make sense when you know what the physical, chemical and biological processes behind them are. So again, it's all about the science. So understanding the science helps us understand the impacts to ecosystems. So we've got obviously the impacts on ecological and biological principles, and understanding kind of how ecosystems respond and how they can recover from any kind of um, negative impacts. It's important for organisations to understand, what is a long-term impact on our local environment if we continue to operate in this way. And then you've got the chemical and physical processes, and then the climate and atmospheric science. So the climate change obviously is one of the biggest drivers for environmental management. So the scientific principles like the greenhouse effect, carbon cycles, we spoke about that in a previous module, and global warming potential explain how human activity affects the atmosphere. So obviously the different greenhouse gases, we know which human activities produce greenhouse gases. So that's why organisations will really take action to understand how they can mitigate and limit greenhouse gases. And I won't go into that now, but yeah, I'm going to move on to the next one. So do you want me to, I'm just conscious of the time, it's 11:05. Do you want me to go away and have a look at the specific systems for your sector and then I'll send them to you on WhatsApp?
Do you like? I'm with you.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So 1.4, so an analysis. So why do some environmental impacts matter more than others? So we mentioned this, I spoke about this a little bit before. So environmental impacts will carry the same weight for an organisation. Not all impacts will. So some issues are far more concerning because they come with higher risks, tighter regulations, bigger financial consequences, or stronger stakeholder expectations. The level of concern usually depends on the organisation's activities, location, and exposure to environmental risk. So yeah, it's just important to understand that some environmental impacts will be bigger than others. So in some areas, especially for UK, flooding is a big impact. So I guess that's why you've probably had a lot of questions on that, which now it's good to understand that now for me. So I can help you with that going forward. So legal and regulatory pressure. So impacts linked to strict legal controls carry much more concern. So obviously hazardous waste disposal, air emissions, water discharges and chemical storage, they are all heavily regulated because the impacts are so severe. So organisations will know that if you breach these rules, this can lead to prosecution, fines, or absolutely being shut down as an organisation. So a lot of organisations do definitely prioritise these areas where if non-compliance would mean they could potentially face, legal consequences. So yeah, I've found that a lot of organisations will mostly focus on this, the legal pressure side. And then another area is the financial consequences. So some impacts have direct and significant financial implications. So high energy consumption obviously costs more. And a lot of organisations that I've worked for have really focused on targeting high energy bills, which is positive. Excessive waste generation or inefficient use of materials increase operational costs. And also environmental incidents such as spills or contamination can cost organisations a lot of money. And communities that are impacted as well may put in compensation claims. Because these issues can hit the organisation's bottom line, so how much profit they get, they will probably become higher priorities that have minimal financial cost. And then the next key area to remember is reputational and stakeholder risk. So issues that attract public attention or criticism are far more concerning for organisations. So we know that any kind of pollution events or biodiversity challenge damage does not look good for local community. So a lot of organisations will try to mitigate that to kind of limit reputational damage. So customers, investors and local communities expect responsible behaviour. And also the rise of social media has probably had a massive impact, probably only one positive. So obviously the global nature of social media has meant that we have more visibility now as consumers of what organisations, the impacts of organisations across the world. So that's another kind of thing to remember as well. And then we have operational and safety risks. So some environmental impacts pose direct risks to staff, customers, or day-to-day operations. So obviously it makes sense that organisations really limit those risks to their staff. And then we've got strategic and long-term risks. So thinking about the definition of sustainable development, it's about thinking about the future nature of sustainability. So we know that climate change, resource scarcity and supply chain vulnerability can impact long-term strategy for organisations. Organisations that rely heavily on energy, water, land and natural materials are more exposed. And then again, back to this idea, the relevance to an organisation's activities. So it depends on what an organisation does and how it impacts the local environment. So just remembering again to keep it really specific to an organisation's key operations. So here's an example. So for a manufacturer, they may have more concerns about emissions and waste, whereas a logistics company focuses maybe more on fuel use and carbon. So each organisation will have a different kind of scope area to think about. And then a retailer may care more about packaging and supply chain impacts. So the most concerning impacts are those most closely connected to the organisation's core operations. And then just to summarise, so some areas of environmental impact are more concerning because they bring higher regulatory risk, bigger costs, stronger stakeholder scrutiny, operational threats, or long-term strategic implications. So I think that's just something to think about and operate at a kind of organisational level. Why does it matter? Why should sustainability and environmental protection matter for organisation? And that's a really good summary there, Dahlia. And then organisations focus their attention on the impacts that have the greatest potential to damage their legal standing, finances, reputation, or business continuity. Okay, we have come to the end there. So here are some references, and this is a really good example for the Harvard. Obviously, we'll do another session, a separate session for academic writing skills, which will go over the Harvard referencing system. But if you look here, this is kind of demonstrated how you would reference a book or a journal or a paper. So if you ever want a kind of an example of how UK Versity has referenced, this is the correct way on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I will do, I'm going to go away now. I'm going to look for specific examples for your sector, and I will send them to you on WhatsApp. And then I will speak to Suknor about trying. We'll do a specific session around academic skills if you'd like to do that, but you'd need to request it too.
Yeah, sure, Emma. Thank you. I will request it too after we end the session, and I will tell Suknur about it.
Okie dokie. Well, I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope that your fasting continues positively as well.
Yes, thank you. Have a
Okay.
nice day,
Have
and
you got any
thank you.
questions at all, Dahlia?
Um, no, it just the question refers to the academic writing skills. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll go back to Suknor, and then obviously if you just request it with Suknor, we can get that arranged and we can specifically go into that as well.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Emma. Thank you.
Okay, well, have a
Bye.
lovely day. Enjoy the sunshine.
You too. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.